Ken, to kick us off, would you please just give us a bit of background to 123.ie and RSA and your operations in Ireland, please?
So I think most people know 123 probably from the jingle, just log on and save money. 123 kicked off, founded around about 2001, 2002. A guy called Jeff Boyle had the idea to make it easy to buy and renew insurance online. So Jeff got into the business, and pretty much for about 4 to 5 years it trundled along, and then around about 2007 it became an overnight success. As in, it just took off completely. Started to grow. As of recently, we had in excess of 300,000 customers, so pretty fast startup. Okay. Like all startups, a lot of things done by the seat of the pants. Systems built by the week and deployed by the week. Changes made very rapidly. Come 2010, RSA acquired 123. And essentially we became part of the RSA family, but we've been held as an individual or as a wholly owned subsidiary, and we still very much got the 123 culture. RSA, very classic insurance company, been around for about 300 years, but mostly dealt through intermediated channels, through brokers, through affinity arrangements, and has a large commercial business. So chalk and cheese, and in some ways we're somewhat bimodal in terms of culture and operation. But we're good fit in that we span the whole range. But
did that throw up then a number of challenges for you, given that you described it as lots of rapid changes, and then with RSA, the two organisations, has that caused issues with tech?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you'll often come across when a subsidiary is acquired, there's some form of integration. For the first couple of years, we didn't integrate, and in fact, our strategy is to only integrate things that make sense, where you can share. And one of those things that we will integrate on, for example, are the telephony and the collaboration platforms. Some things we're not going to integrate on are the likes of what our customer-facing sales technologies are, because we've got a very different stack to dealing directly with a customer than, for example, an intermediated organisation would have. But what we have got, collectively is, in both cases, we've got somewhat too complex technology. We've got an element of legacy. Everybody has a legacy, right? If you're 3 years old, you've got a legacy at this stage, because and so we've got challenges in terms of how to make sure that we've got some sort of cohesive technical platform in place.
And you've gone through, or you are in the process of going through, a major cloud program. What are the kind of challenges or opportunities that did you have in the business prior to that? What were the types of things that were causing you difficulty, or did you see as an opportunity?
Yeah, so some of that stems from the fact that we're very different organisations. So there's no real common path to the customer. Very different ways that we deal with customers. Different technologies, different approaches. So when we decided that collaboration was one of the areas that we would integrate on, that we would look to actually raise the bar and improve collectively across both organisations, we decided to choose pretty much a common framework in terms of how we would develop out telephony, how we would develop out our contact centres, so that the experience that customers would get when they're talking to our claims operation, which is in Galway, or a commercial operation, for example, in Belfast, or the direct division in 123, we want customers to get a best-in-class experience. And in many cases, what we wanted, it kind of resonates with what Ian talked about earlier, we want to make it easy. Easy on two fronts. We want to make it easy for the customers in how they interact, but something that we often forget, or we try not to forget too often, but it happens, is we want to make it easy for the person servicing the customer, the agent. So whether it might be that person in McDonald's or the person in Aldi, we want to make it easy for them to do the right job. So that's one of the, if you will, the driving forces about what we're doing in terms of our cloud.
Well, before we get into the cloud discussion, because it was something that struck me around the different definitions around customer experience, there seems to be difficult enough for people to clearly and concisely describe what cloud, or their understanding of what cloud computing is. Let's test you. Give me your definition.
So I think we've probably about 120 or 140 people in the audience here. Just count the seats. And I think you get 120 definitions if you ask everybody.
Well, you're the one with the mic.
Yeah, okay. the power of the pen. So, the cloud will get itself a bad name soon enough, as in everybody wants to be calling what they've got cloud, and the reality is a lot of that stuff that's called cloud really isn't, right? So you've got to be a little bit careful about it. Cloud for me is something that's multi-tenant. In other words, you're not the only person on it. There are multiple companies on the platform. It's network accessible, so in principle, all you need, when I say all you need, is a network connection. Network connections are complex in their own right, but you need good quality network connections. And the manner in which the cloud product, whatever it is, whether it's a Salesforce.com or a telephony product, it has to operate on a pay-as-you-go basis. So it has to have a demand-led pricing model. And it has to have somebody else managing the service for you. Okay. So it's not your problem to solve. So you're not in the business. You're not in the technology business. You're in the consumption of service business.
And how do you find that? Because that's a lack of control, though, too, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's if you one of the things, and we've a couple of areas where we're cloudified at this stage. We're not cloudified everywhere. And I'll talk about that, I suppose, in a while. But one of the things most companies are used to is that they control everything, so it's in your data center, it's on your desktop, you know exactly what it's going to be. When you decide to adopt a cloud product, whether it's a Salesforce type product or whether it's an infrastructure type cloud product, you'll find that the service models are different. So each of the vendors and each of the people who are provisioning you will probably have a different idea of what service looks like. And all of a sudden, and if you're in the IT shop, which I am, and you're fronting that, you've got a lot of differences about how service gets deployed. So there's a world of challenge in there to actually bring that together so that the end user, which in my case it really is, the frontline call center agents, that they get what they're expecting. And I deal with the service variations at the back end.
Well, have you any advice then on how to navigate that challenge of the different views from your different providers, and how best to? Is there a way of codifying it for yourselves?
Yeah, well, there's contracts, right? So, and maybe just go back a little bit. A lot of companies end up on cloud not because they decided to be there, but because somebody in a department got frustrated and bought it, and then ultimately it was handed over to the IT shops, and you better manage this. It's a good idea for most IT shops to at least establish what they want cloud to be, and establish where it plays and how you want to play. And that's job number one. You'll end up getting the marketing department's rules that might go off on a solo run. They'll come to you and say, well, actually, it looks like you know where you want this to be. How does this fit? And you'll have a better chance in the first instance of establishing that something's going to work. Where you've adopted a cloud product with a service provider, and we've experienced in this in one of the early areas we went to was in payments, for example. If most people in here will remember, about 2 years ago, SEPA, the Single Payment Authority, became the requirement for direct debits. Well, we didn't have a direct debit system, and the decision was not to buy one, not to build one, but to go and buy. And we bought a cloud service in terms of a direct debit service. That direct debit service was a straight derivative out of a bank and used to working in the banking world. And so their concept of service was sometime around about 10 o'clock on a Thursday night, they would do patching and upgrades. Well, sometime around 10 o'clock on a Thursday night, my customers are buying policies. We're an online business. We don't fit banking hours. Yeah. That was never going to work for us. So they're the sort of challenges that we would have had to face. And in terms of resolving them, you need to know your cloud provider. You need to know your partner. In that case, there was some kind of robust adult discussions being had directly with the providers. And in fairness, they're learning from us in terms of demand. So the end game on that one was those cycles and those kind of outages were moved to 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning, which is very different for them, but it worked for us.
Well, do you have any general link to, I suppose it's linked to that provider, but any general observations on the market itself around cloud?
Yeah, it has different maturity cycles. It depends where you're going to be, right? First of all, there is no cloud. There's no one cloud. There are lots of clouds. And there are lots of providers selling products that they suggest as a cloud, and it really isn't. It's just old stuff rewashed and sold as cloud because it might look better to customers. Anil Bhusri, who is the CEO of Workday, and any of you who have adopted a HR product might know about Workday. They've got a pretty good cloud-based HR platform. But Neil pretty much refers to this as probably about 5 categories of cloud.
Okay.
And it's a useful model, I think, in that he described it as there's the cloud that deals with the front end, the sales and service with the customer. There's the cloud that deals with the enterprise backbone. So in that, you're looking at things like your trading systems, your enterprise applications, your SAP type ERPs. There will be very specific vertical clouds for industries. A great example, I saw it here at the web conference that was held recently, where GE are building a vertical telematics cloud for all the telematics information that's coming off trains, planes, and automobiles, because there's a requirement in the industry that maintains engines to have a very specific engine maintenance capability. IT need a cloud. There's an awful lot of stuff goes on in IT about how you run IT, and the services like ServiceNow and other things will come from that cloud. So there are a number of clouds which you'll end up actually having to integrate. And one of the challenges there will be, apart from the service item that I talked about earlier, your data is going to be in many different places. So when getting into the cloud space, you've got to figure out which of those spaces am I going to be in and which am I not going to be in. Or when, if I'm not going to be in it, I'm not going to be in it for now, but I might choose to be in a year or two.
And from your experience, what kind of learning did you take from that, or what advice would you have for someone listening to this now who is facing that challenge?
We kind of set out early on to have a strategy around cloud, and it was more about don't get surprised. So know what's good for your organisation from cloud and what's not good and why. And so we pretty much identified early that payments was a good opportunity, and that was we would go cloud on that. We've identified that collaboration is a good opportunity. We're going cloud on that. We've identified areas that cloud's just not ready. So where there's the strong regulations, and we're a regulated entity, obviously, around data sovereignty. There's a lot of problems around security and data jurisdiction. So there's items that we're just not going to put in the cloud yet. It'll get solved, but it's not solved yet, and so the timing's not right for us. And other questions that come into play when you're deciding what you're going to do is really about it's money, it's capital. When's the right point in time? And it's really a procurement exercise. Or to be more precise, if you're going to refresh something or change something, that's a good opportunity. But if you've got a system that's running well, you may or may not actually choose to move it to the cloud anytime soon. You may decide to run it as is. But when the point in time for a change of whatever that change is going to be, you should always look at cloud. So to go back to the earlier part of the question, know what cloud is good for your organisation and how, and then know when is a good point in time.
And do you find that it's possible for, and the payments, I'm not sure if it is, but if it's possible for cloud to make a transformational or have a transformational role in relation to customer experience or improving customer experience?
Yeah, one of the paradigms that comes with cloud, and most of the people who are in the cloud that are true cloud tend to be newer technology vendors, and it tends to be much more modern, much more capable, and it also tends to be much more agile. So you will see change happening. But for us, the thing that we look for out of cloud is that you will get early adopter, you get innovation. So regardless of whether it's Microsoft Azure or Workday or others, these guys are all innovating real fast. They're all what I would call cloud natives at this stage. And you're getting the benefit of that innovation available to you. So it is absolutely true that it can affect the customer experience because you get access to technologies you just couldn't do if you were in an on-premise type world or in an old-school world.
Sure. To wrap us up, if there were 3 pieces of advice you'd give to any organisation in relation to adoption of the cloud to enhance customer experience or anything else, what would they be?
Well, I go back to maybe the first earlier comment, have a strategy. Have a strategy for cloud, and that doesn't require you to have a 40-page PowerPoint. It can fit on a page. It can pretty much model your business out, look at your areas of opportunity, and look at your timing. One of the things about cloud, 2 other things I'd say are probably of note. One is that cloud provision comes with take it or leave it type approaches, as in the cloud provider will often have a product that's the way they built it.
Okay.
It may not be the way you want to consume it. So there is an integration activity that you'll need to do. And people sometimes forget that. I think the cloud is going to do everything for them. It won't necessarily. So look out for the integration points. And one thing hasn't changed, and cloud hasn't changed, and that is the fact that deployment, like people, process changes, behaviors, implementations, they are all still the same. The cloud product gets you there earlier, and it enables you to make change easier, because you can try things and you can fail fast and then try it again.
Okay.
But you've got to watch carefully on those items.
So have a strategy, make sure that the organisation that are giving you that you're keeping a bit of control, you're making sure that it's working for you. Is there a third one then that you would have for us in terms of that piece? Is it then just be able to roll it out and have it adapt for the organisation? You're
going to need a lot of sponsorship internally, right?
Okay.
So if you tell your CEO you're doing cloud, you tick a box because someone's probably told them that's a good idea, right? But if you tell your CEO you're doing cloud because of a raft of technology reasons, he'll lose interest very quickly. Sure. Cloud is, with the stakeholders, is all about what are they going to get, and knowing clearly what you're going to get and how it's going to impact your organisation, and selling it internally on that basis is very important, because cloud's a risk. It isn't what it used to be in terms of your data center. It doesn't look and feel this in terms of delivery, how your classic delivery looked. You are taking a risk, but it's a risk worth taking. You won't move ahead unless you do so.
Brilliant. Ken, thank you very much.